Hey there, hope you're having a wonderful day. So in the previous video, we went over the concept of tile maps, and we can use tile maps to design a map for our game. So in the previous video, we implemented a map using a tile map that I provided to you all. And in this video, we're going to talk about ways we can optimize our game. So the first way is to optimize the tile map. So let me show you what we have so far. So let's save and run the program. And you can see we have our game over here, and we have monsters, the Matals, and they are firing bullets. And let me just go back here. So this is the game map that is based on the tile map. And there's one thing that we can optimize. So notice that whenever we are playing the game, we are constantly checking for tile collision between Mega Man and these tiles over here. We are checking for every tile in the map. But what we can do is just check the tiles that Mega Man can realistically, physically touch. So throughout the game, Mega Man is going to collide on this top platform, which is made of floor tiles, and Mega Man can never collide with the tiles underneath, which are the rock tiles over here. Yet in our game, we are checking collision between Mega Man and every single tile. So instead of doing that, we should optimize the map so that Mega Man would only need to check the tiles that he can physically touch, and this rock tile area, this would just be left off as decoration. So we would put these tiles in the background tiles list instead of the tiles list, since we are not going to need to check for collision with these rock tiles over here. And in order to do that, we have to update the tile map. So here you can see in our tile map, we have the current game map. And if you scroll down, we have the optimized game map. And there's a difference. Basically, any tile that is not touchable by Mega Man, I marked as negative. So the number is the same. The only difference is we add a negative sign. So the negative is used for determining whether we place it in the background tiles list or not. And we keep the number the same so we know which image to use. Alright, so let's update our code to use this new tile map. So I'm going to replace this with optimized game map 1. And I'm going to keep the unoptimized one just for the lesson in the previous video. So now we have an optimized map, and we need to account for the negative numbers. So let's scroll down. And in our create map function, we need to take into account negative numbers for anything that involves tiles. So the first 6 tiles, these could be negative. So we need to take that into account. So over here, I'm just going to create another function called append tiles. For these 6 tiles, we're going to do a check. If the map code is negative, then we're going to place the tile in the background tiles list. Otherwise, we put it in the tiles list. And this is an if-else conditional statement that we have to add in 6 places. So it would be better to use a function so that we don't have to copy and paste code. So over here, I'm going to pass in a map code, which will check for negative or positive. And I'll pass in a tile. So if the map code is less than 0, meaning it is negative, then we're going to treat this as a background tile. Otherwise, if it's positive, then it is a physical tile that Mega Man can possibly collide with. So tiles.append tile. Alright, now let's scroll back down, and we're going to call this function. So if map code is 1, we need to change this to make it absolute value of map code. So if the absolute value is 1, then we're going to call append tiles. So we're going to create the same tile, but this time we're going to pass it into that function, which will determine, based on the map code, whether we place it in the background tiles list or the tiles list. And this function takes in 2 parameters. So we need to pass in the map code as well. So over here, I'm going to pass in the map code. And I'm just going to get rid of this and just copy and paste the first elif block. So let's take this and change this to 2. And this will be rock tile 2. Let's copy and paste again. This will be 3. We'll have rock tile 3 image. And then let's paste again. 4. This will be rock tile 4 image. Let's paste again. 5. This will be the floor tile image. And one more time, we're going to change this to 6. And this is going to be wall tile image. Now let's save and run the program. So here you can see we have our game, and it looks exactly the same as before, except the tiles that are not reachable by Mega Man, they are background tiles. And just so that you can visualize it better, I'm going to comment out the code where we draw the background tiles. So in our draw function, I'm going to comment this code out. So we're going to draw everything but the background tiles. And this will include tiles that we marked as -1 in our tile map. So let's save and run a program. And here you can see we have these rock tiles missing. So basically they are background tiles, and we're not going to check collision between Mega Man and the rock tiles. So the only tiles that should be remaining are the ones that Mega Man can actually physically collide with. So let's walk through the game to see what the map looks like. And you can see we only keep the tiles that Mega Man can physically collide with. So as you might notice, there are a lot of tiles missing, and those are all the tiles that we avoid checking collision with. So we probably cut the tile list by 80%, and therefore if we had, let's say, 1,000 tiles to check through, now we only need to check for collision with 200 tiles. So let's keep going. And I think I might have noticed something missing over here. Okay, so this should actually not be here. I think I might have made a mistake when I was making some of the tiles negative. This should not be here. Instead, this tile should have been for the tile over here. So I'm going to fix that in the tile map and upload it again in the GitHub repository. And yeah, by the time you see this video, the tile map would have been fixed already, okay? So this is just something that I found while recording this video. Alright, so let's just continue. Okay, so we made it to the end. Alright, so that's one way we can optimize our game. Now let me show you another way we can optimize our game. So in our create map function, we are iterating through each row, and within each row, we're iterating through each column. So we're basically going like this. And then after this first row, we go on to the next row. And again. Now this is fine, but there's actually a better way to iterate through the tile map. And that is, instead of going row by row, we should go column by column. Because the way we iterate through the tile map will affect the order of all of the objects within our list. So basically, if these were all tiles, like let's say over here, then we're going to add all the tiles in this order. However, we can flip it and do column by column instead of row by row. So we can go like this, and then like this. And what is the difference, you might ask? Well, let's say Mega Man is over here. And we have a tile that's over here. Because we are iterating column by column, the order is going to be column by column. So if we have a tile that's over here, then I can optimize tile collision even more. Basically, if the tile X position is greater than the game width, that means this tile is already too far away. So within our tile collision, we can just stop checking the rest of the tiles, because if this tile is far away, then any tile that comes after it horizontally, for example this one, will also be far away, in which case we don't need to check for it. So basically, this tile being too far away means any tile afterwards we shouldn't need to check for. And we can only do this if we order the tiles column by column. If we had it like before where we did row by row, then we wouldn't be able to check for this. So let's go back to our create map function. So within our create map function, instead of iterating through the tile map row by row, we're going to do column by column. Now there's one thing that we have to make sure here, and that is when we do row by row, we can actually go up to the length of that current row, meaning each row can have different length. So some rows can have more numbers than others. Now, your tile map should always have the same number of rows and columns. It should be a rectangle. This just provides a sense of safety within your code, but we're going to lose this sense of safety since we're going to have to assume that each row is going to be the same. So let's flip this and make it column by column instead of row by row. So here I'm going to do for column in range length of game map. Since I can't do row like this, I would just do 0. So here we're just going to assume that the row 0 will have the same number of columns as every other row after. And here I'm going to do for row in range length of game map, which is 16. And that's pretty much it for our create map function. Now let's optimize our check tile collision function. So currently we are checking collision with every single tile, but we can stop the check earlier now that we are adding the tiles column by column instead. So here I can do elif tile.x. So this is going to assume that this tile is to the right. So if it's to the right of the character, that means the x position will be a greater value, since going to the right is more positive. So if tile.x minus character.x is greater than game width, and I'm using game width as the reference since anything that's past the game width we cannot see, so this is a good number to use. So if the x position between the tile and this character, if the difference is greater than the game width, this means that this tile is too far away to the right from the character, in which case I would just return none. So this is an early exit for our collision detection. And the nice part about this is we are calling this function in check tile collision y, which is being used by the metals. So their collision detection will also end earlier if the tiles are too far to the right from where they are. Alright, so that's how we can optimize check tile collision even further. And actually, if we save and run the program, you're not really going to notice a big difference. Tile collision will still work. So let me just show you. Tile collision is working fine. Oops, stepped on a spike. And I can collide to the left and to the right. Okay. Now there is one more optimization that I want to show you, and that is within the draw function. And in our draw function, I'm going to uncomment this. So if I save and run the program, you can see we have our tiles again. Okay. So these floor tiles are in the tiles list and these rock tiles are in the background tiles list. So in our draw function, we are drawing all the tiles on a screen, but we actually don't need to because all the tiles are not going to be visible unless they are within the game width. And because we are adding all the tiles column by column, we can check for the x position to see how far they're off from the game width. So here I can do if tile.x is greater than game width, I'm going to break. So I'm going to iterate through all the tiles in the background tiles. If the x position is past the game width, this means that it is not going to be visible to us on the screen. So if it's not visible to us, there's no need for us to draw this tile. And I can do the same in the next for loop. So I'm just going to copy and paste this over here. And we can also do the same for the spikes. So if spike.x is greater than game width, we break. So break is going to exit the for loop early so that we don't have to iterate through the rest of the tiles in the list. Because as I mentioned before, let's say this tile is off screen, then we don't need to draw this one. And every single tile that comes after this one, we also don't need to draw, since we're not going to be able to see it. So we have tiles and spikes, and let's scroll down over here. For the bullets, we don't need to worry because we have code in place that will clean up any bullets that go past the boundaries of our window. However, we do need to do this for the metals. So if metal.x is greater than game width, we're going to break over here. And for the bladers as well, if metal.x is greater than game width, we're going to break. And let's do it for the items as well. If item.x is greater than the game width, break. And if I save and run the program, you're not going to notice any difference because you can't see what's not drawn on the screen. So what I'm going to do is scroll up to our window. So over here where we have our window, I'm going to do game width plus 200. So I'm going to expand the game window by 200 pixels so we can see what off-screen would look like. So let's save and run the program. Alright, so here you can see this over here is the boundary for our game width. And here we have nothing, but if I start walking to the right, you can see we start drawing more things. Okay. And the blader is missing, so I think we have a bug somewhere. And yeah, there's a typo here. So this should actually be if blader.x. All right, so let's save and run the program again. All right, so now let's walk to the right. And you can see every time we walk to the right, another column gets drawn. Okay, there's our blader. All right, so this is how we can optimize our window to draw only the tiles and enemies that we can see on the screen. All right, so I'm going to change the width back. So over here, I'm going to remove this 200. All right, let's save and run the program. And yeah, we have the same game as we had before, except now it is a lot more optimized. And there are more ways we can optimize this game, but I'm just going to leave it here for now. And in the next video, we're going to fix some issue with the bullets. So actually, let me just game over here. Oh wait, we don't have game over. I forgot. So I'm going to have to close this and rerun the program. So for the enemy bullets, for the metals, here you can see we have some metals. They are firing bullets, but you might notice if I destroy a metal, all the bullets that are part of the metal disappear as well. And the reason why that happens is because we are removing the metal from the list. And when we remove metals from the list, we are also removing the metal's list of bullets along with it. So what we should do is when we destroy a metal, we should add all the bullets to a different list so that they can stay alive and continue being drawn and moved even though the metal is no longer here. So I'm going to show you how to do that in the next video. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, make sure you give this video a like. And if you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. And as always, if you want to stay up to date for more Python game programming tutorials, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.